Hello and welcome to the weekly GCN webinar. To take my class and learn more about how to be a working actor, please go to the link over there. There it is. There it is. Please go to that link. All right, now on with the show. Anyway, welcome, Mary. Nice to see you.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to call you Melanie all the way through this. Your character that's a little bit flighty and doesn't always show up to things on time and is British. Yeah, so I'm just going to call you Melanie.
You can call me anything right now. I don't mind.
All right, Mary, let's run through the basic stats here. You and I worked together years ago at an institution of higher learning where you were learning to act and I was teaching to act. And I enjoyed speaking to you and working with you then. Over the time, you have been back to England, to Atlanta, now live in LA. You were just in Miami a little while ago. So you're a globe-trotting writer, actor. Tell us what you're doing these days, Melanie.
Well, I've also, since I last spoke to you, been to New York, Ohio, Arizona, Virginia. I feel like there's more. Working on a documentary, so that's one thing. I'm a producer on that. So we've now, since I got the vaccine, which out here in LA they're doing amazingly with the vaccine. I don't know how it's going in other places, but I managed to get one of the last ones of the day. So as soon as I was vaccinated, we could get another 2 crew members who'd also been vaccinated. We hit the ground running. So we're doing working on a documentary about Israel and Palestine, which
sort of timely.
So timely, yeah. So that's been fascinating, and learning. This is one of the. I mean, I always think one of the best ways of learning anything is on the job. So as much as you can kind of prep yourself for that kind of production and everything that goes into it, there's nothing like actually hitting 8 states in 10 days and learning everything about timing, being on time for things, showing up on the right day for stuff.
How did you end up being a producer on this? How did this all play out? Caroline and I was just egging her on to take the first step in getting a new agent and all sorts of stuff. But how did this journey begin that is now ending up taking you to multiple states being a producer of a documentary?
Well, I keep feeling like last year didn't happen, so I keep saying last year. But when I say last year, I mean 2019.
Yeah.
I guess 2 years ago, I filmed a short film about consent. It's called Spaghetti.
I saw that on the website.
I saw that on your Instagram too.
Yeah. So I wrote that to film here in LA, and I ended up was applying for another visa, got a fraudulent attorney, almost got deported, had to leave the country. There's a whole bunch of stuff, but there's silver lining to just about anything. I ended up getting back to England and had the script in my back pocket. Was asked to go and direct something at a festival that was happening in London, and got to meet some people. And when you in our industry, you just walk in a room and who the hustlers are. So I was like, I like sussing that out and thinking, you're someone that makes things happen. You're someone that makes things happen. So I managed to meet a group of people there over that 3 days. Asked someone who I thought was really great if he'd help me produce Spaghetti. Anyway, we filmed that, screened it at BAFTA in London.
Yeah.
And had a whole event there. And from that, someone who had happened to hear about what I was doing there, and all of this, by the way, was fly by the seat of my pants. I didn't plan any of this. The only reason that we screened at BAFTA was because somebody told me I'd never get to screen it at BAFTA. And
you were like, oh no, I hang with the hustlers. I will screen at BAFTA.
So someone had heard about what I was doing there. And at the same time, they were putting this documentary together, and it was all guys working on it, and they wanted to have a female presence, but also a woman that wasn't afraid to work on a subject that will be nothing but controversial, especially when coming, coming to pitch and to sell. And so I got thrown in the mix and was asked to be a part of it, which has been, it's been amazing. Obviously we got put on hold completely last year. Yeah, that's how that's come about. We're almost, I think we've got 8 more interviews to get before Picture Lock, so that's pretty exciting. And then years ago I was working with a composer out here, and he's phenomenal, and there's no way that we could have normally got him for this project, but again, I like a challenge, especially if I'm told no, something's not possible. So anyway, we've managed to get him on board, so we've been talking with him, going through the creative process with him. So yeah, it's been, I think that's one of my favorite things about this life and this industry. It's so unpredictable, and it's not like in the, you always hear it's all who you know, but it, in the best way, it really is, because you never know who you meet or what. I wrote this, when I wrote Spaghetti, I was really angry and I didn't know what to do about something. I'd had this awful experience, and it wasn't the first time that it had happened to me, and I didn't know what to do. So just from that, writing that little script when I was mad to do something about it has grown, into all these different opportunities and into all these different things. So life's definitely been interesting lately.
It's amazing. I love that it came out of a bad thing. I don't love it. What I mean is that you took a bad thing and wrote about it. There's 3 things that make any project start with a writer: anger, a check, or a deadline. Those are the only 3 things.
Totally. And that was, that only came about because a friend who I'd been in an acting class with a few years beforehand out here, it was a great acting class with a teacher called Gordon Hunt, and he's Helen Hunt's father. But
yeah,
I took class with him, and he really encouraged us to bring writing in. I wasn't a writer by any means. I just was starting to play around, and she'd heard some of my writing and she wanted to work on something. So it just so happened that she called me that day and said, "Can you write something for me to film? I need something to do. Is there anything on your mind?" And I was like, "Yeah, consent." And so that's how that came about. So yeah, this is definitely an interesting industry to be a part of, especially because I came out here purely for acting, and I've ended up not really acting at all,
which is absolutely fine in the scheme of things, right, Mary? I mean, I'm asking more than telling you. Like, I'm asking if life not going by plan but still being interesting is cool with Hustler Mary as you are now.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, I think that's the biggest takeaway that I've had over the last few years. I mean, it's just almost impossible to plan. And it's not that if something came my way or I had an opportunity to get on stage or to get, in front of the camera again, I absolutely jump at it. I love it. But at the same time, even with acting and everything that I do, one of my biggest life goals is to tell stories that might otherwise not get told. So whatever shape that comes in. And so, when you get to do when I was at New York at drama school, my whole goal was just be an actress, nothing else. And then somebody in the administration at the school one day asked at the beginning of lunch hour if I was submitting something to a competition that was going on at school. It was a writing competition. If you wrote something and if you got picked, your class would film it. And I didn't have anything to do that lunch hour, and I sat and I wrote something and it got picked, and it was such a cool feeling to see this thing that had been in my head, and I'd never really learned writing or anything, and that's how that came about. But I think if I would have just left school with only, I'm just going to act, I don't think I could have, I mean, not that I would have not handled, but the wait between auditions and the amount of rejection until you get the yes. I've always wanted to fill that space with something interesting, So yeah, I think it's really cool. I mean, you get to meet all kinds of people, and if you have that go with the flow mindset, but also that hustler mentality, I think it's been really exciting. I wouldn't change anything about it.
Beautiful. Yep. One of the things I teach in my course is, 4 hours a week. And one of those hours is write something, like spend an hour a week, which, Mary, but to our listeners and watchers, if you have not tried to sit down and write for an hour, we'll try it sometime and see, and then go back and say, okay, I'll do 15 minutes. Then I'll do 15 minutes and just keep doing it every day.
I'm writing a book actually about all of this kind of stuff. And yeah, it's been really interesting. And he was saying how, I can't remember who said the quote, forgive me, but there's a book in everybody. I think it was, no, I don't want to misquote. But anyway, and one of the things when I was starting to write the book, I'd read about doing this thing where you set an alarm for 25 minutes and you just write. You're not allowed to edit, just let it all out, then break for 5 or 10 minutes, get up, move around, and then come back and do 25 minutes and then leave it. And that's definitely helped. And then before I'd always think I'd clear my diary for the whole day and be like, I'm going to write all day no matter what. And of course,
oh my God. Like, like Stephen King doesn't do that. You know what I mean? Like, it's totally impossible. Yeah, right.
Maybe then you clean the bathroom and then you do the laundry and then you make a cup of tea and then
your house looks amazing when you do that. Right. The day, yeah.
Completely. So so little bits, but it's definitely. I think that especially when we're doing what we're doing, there's so many interesting experiences, and it causes you to be so introspective because when you get pushed back so many times and rejected, they say, what is it, 50 no's for every yes or something like that in our life.
Is it that? Yeah, it doesn't sound like a bad odds. Sounds about right sounds about right to me in my life.
Yeah, totally. And you have to really look at yourself and why you're doing it. And if you don't love it, then, you've got to enjoy it and be patient. I pitched something 3.5 years ago, and I think next week we're finally signing on it. And 3.5 years is but you can't sit there and just get, upset or disheartened. You've got to keep filling your time and doing other things.
I think it's so cool that when you were in school that you were like, well, I didn't really know how to write anything. So I just sat down at lunch and wrote. So is there, and now that you're talking about the fact that you're writing a book, like what do you, during that time in your training, because I think that now, I think back to being in Bruce's class and I'm like, oh, I wish I had just thought of things this way and been more willing to try things and fail. Is there anything like that for you when you were, in conservatory that you wish you knew or about the way your career would go?
Oh my gosh, so much. If I could go back and talk to Melanie on the first day, I wish that I had just relaxed a bit at school. I was so dead set and almost obsessed on getting into this particular class for second year that I'd been told was like the be all and end all, and every bit of energy went towards that, and I jumped through any hoops I could possibly, and it consumed me. And I wish I could go back and just enjoy and embrace everything, and also to see school and that time of education as the time to fail. The more times you get to fall on your face in a class in front of your classmates, take it. It's brilliant, because I'd rather have done it then than later, and I totally did it later too. But I think I would have thought, whatever class I get into, whatever teacher I get to work with is going to bring something so unique. I wish I'd just done that, gone with the flow, not been so worried about, I don't know, even things like image or my weight or things like that I thought, a comment was made to me that if I didn't lose 20 pounds and, be a brunette, I'd never work. Well, so of course I kept.
This is endemic in acting schools, though. I mean, back in, the dark ages when I went to Carnegie, it was the same thing. it hasn't stopped. We gotta stop this.
You have to stop it because, then I was like, okay, got it. I lost 20 pounds over 6 weeks, cut my hair, dyed my hair brunette, had that thing in the back of my head for the longest time. I'm not going to be successful unless I'm skinny. Well, I gained 20 pounds over the last year and a half through pandemic and just being too busy. I'm working more now and doing more now
Funny,
than
funny,
I
isn't it?
ever have. Yeah. So stuff like that, I wish I could go back and just be fully enjoy. I mean, you interviewed Gerard a couple months ago, I guess it was now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he had such a phenomenal attitude at school. I wish I would have. He was great. I'd get so overwhelmed some days I wouldn't want to go to school. He'd be at my door, just knocking on my door over and over and over until I'd leave my dorm room and get to school. I mean, he was. He's still to this day one of my absolute best friends, and he embraced every moment of school. I think that would be something I would completely go back and be. And if a teacher is going to toy with you and mess with your head like that, I mean, does it ignore, whatever, you're going to leave school and you're never probably going to see or hear about that person again and focus on the stuff that really matters. I think when we caught up briefly before doing this, Bruce, I was saying with you, I remember in your class, it's so refreshing and a breath of fresh air because your class was genuinely professional. I remember thinking when we would do class with you, thinking, oh, this is actually what it's probably going to be like on the outside. Outside of this bubble, your school becomes your entire world when you're at drama school. And you think everything's like the be all and end all, but there's a massive world just on this side of it. But your class, I mean, you had to be prepared. There was no BS. It was I remember hating it, but it worked when we had to do an exercise with you where you had to walk into the room.
Mary, I was just going to bring that up. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Because you forget that you get so wrapped up in the school mentality of you have your reputation. Yeah. And it's no, how are you going to walk into a room when no one has any idea who you are? That's so funny. You just said that. Wow.
Yeah. What's the impression you want to make? How do you even say your name? I remember you making us say our name, but I'd be like, I don't know. Own it. If I go past and I see that as your slate, pass, own it. That's the stuff but then that's the thing too, when you learn things like that in those classes, those are the things that you get to apply. Because when you walk into a pitch meeting, when you go to a networking event, I meet so many people who hate networking. I love networking. It's like a video game. I don't play video games, so I've already got to reference the oldest game. I've never played a video game, but in my head it's as I imagine. Each person you meet is a new level on a video game. The gold coins, it's all this big web. But if you own what you're bringing, you're never going to be an annoyance to somebody. And if there's genuinely no reason for you to know each other, fine, move on. But I don't know, it's things like that though, when you get to an event and you don't know anybody, whether it's a screening or I went to some red carpet events, things like that. It's all those things that you pick up at school that you can apply so well later on in life. The sort of fake it till you make it. You can be fully quaking in your boots, but no one has to know.
Excellent. I keep joking that your name is Melanie. Why don't you tell people what I'm referring to? Your lovely Melanie Britt.
How to be a Brit in America. I don't know if that's. I don't know if that's still on YouTube. I know
it's still on your site, and I still find it funny. So
you're right, and we've got the teaser trailer actually for doing an actual series with it. Yeah, that came about because I was working. I can't remember where I was, but I was working on a job, and people kept coming up to me and asking me things about, you know, like, what's it like to be British, and random questions and all this kind of stuff. It was a really slow day at work. You know, one of those ones where you're watching the clock. And I was like, well, I could probably do something with this. Maybe, well, I guess I'm such a fish out of water. How could I put this into something? And it wasn't long after we'd left drama school. I mean, it must have been within a few months. And I kept hearing people complain about how they weren't, like, you get this idea that you're going to leave drama school and you're just going to go right onto a show, or you're going to go right into a movie or straight to Broadway. And you forget that there's actually quite a lot before that happens, usually, unless you're super lucky. But people, kept complaining about not having work, not having anything to do. And I thought, I was so broke, like ridiculously broke. And I had a tiny bit of money, and I had a flip camera. Do you remember the flip cameras?
Yeah.
Kayak here. And I thought, bet we could do something. And so I jotted down 10 episode outlines of a web series for how to be a Brit in America. And within 2 weeks, we filmed 10 episodes, how to dance like in America. It was so cool. And it was really like, okay, this is how YouTube was kind of new, I think. I mean, I'm going back a far way, but you know, got this thing up on YouTube, got a few thousand hits on each thing. It was like, oh, okay, this is how you do it on like $20 or whatever it was. Here's 10 episodes. So then that kind of, I really enjoyed doing that. And then I was going to do another season when I moved to Atlanta, but then I started teaching and wrote a play with students down there because I got really interested about what it was like being a teenager in America. So I never carried on, but I really want to do something with it.
Let's bring us home, Melanie Hustler. What you're doing the documentary. What's next on the docket for you?
Well, my current visa is running out in September, so doing all I need to do to stay in the country for another bit, starting my application actually for a green card. I really want to try to get, so that's a big thing. I wrote a screenplay. This is what I pitched 3.5 years ago, and the person that I pitched to has just come back around, so hopefully getting that on. We did a couple of, well, actually, I say a couple, like 7 rewrites of this screenplay.
Isn't that what it takes?
Yeah.
I mean, 7 drafts is sort of done, right?
Oh.
I think somebody really brilliant, like, you know, I don't know, whoever said that, like 7 drafts is sort of, and now it's sort of, you can show it to people.
Oh, and you think, you know, you write it and you think, well, I'll write a screenplay, I'll just knock it out and we'll be done. And you're like, oh no, here we are 7 years later.
Wow.
However many rewrites, drafts, giving it to all these different people, getting notes, then live chat, and it's trying to answer the question of how do you find the one, which I've been trying to figure out forever. So every time you like think you've got the answer, no, you got to change the ending. So you know that
sounds like a very popular topic, Mary. I think there's a few people interested in that topic.
Yeah, and embracing, you know, being a woman in your 30s and not, you know, ticking all the boxes yet, the kids or the other thing. Yeah, so hopefully signing something on that, the documentary, and then also wrote a screenplay during lockdown last year that we are looking at getting financed. So things are coming together, but it's taken a lot of years of, you know, my family a number of times have said to me, are you sure it's not just time to come home? Like, when do you realize this isn't going to happen? But deep down, I know this, you know, things are going to happen. It is
happening. Like, this is it. The trip is the trip.
Yeah, totally. And if you're enjoying it and if you're having fun and you have to do that kind of thing and still have a belief in why the heck, I mean, this is a crazy industry to be a part of. It really is. If you have the right mindset, I mean, it's taking a long time, you know, since I left school. But yes, finally, hopefully all these little things, all the webs that you've been building all these years start to come together, and it starts to get quite exciting, I think, hopefully.
Sounds very exciting. Sounds very exciting.
Yeah.
Caroline, anything you want to ask Mary before we close?
No, you kind of explained it just now, but I wanted to know a little bit about your mindset, like how you, when you hear comments like that from your family, like how do you keep yourself in it and positive?
Well, my family a few years ago had a week of interventions. I was here, and they every day for a week a different family member called and said, time to call it. Yeah,
Mhm.
Hollywood's not a good place. It's too tough. Or
Mhm.
it fires me up even more. It's exactly like when someone said you'll never get BAFTA. And before they'd finished, I was Googling the number for BAFTA and like, can you see me now type thing. It makes you even more like, I think if you know deep down that you've got something or that you're meant to be here, anytime I have that of someone saying, surely it's time to quit, shouldn't you be thinking about having children and settling down now? Or not that I don't want to do that at some point, but for right now, no, it just fills me with even more drive. Okay, how do we make this happen? Who do I know? How can I get this project off the ground? How can I bring some value to this? Or if I want to make a difference or speak out about this, I knew with the consent, I wanted to do something completely differently with that. I wanted to write something that didn't victimize or point blame too much. I wanted to do something that wasn't angry. I was angry, but I wanted to do, because I knew I had a part to play in what happened too by not speaking up, clearly enough and all the rest of it. So I wanted to do something with that. Now that's grown into now I've been working with some teenagers in London to work on a new way of sex education. So yeah, I think you just got to have that mindset.
Thank you a lot for joining us, Mary. It's really I've enjoyed hearing about your journey. I knew a bit about it, but I enjoyed hearing it live.
Oh, my pleasure. And I'm glad I know it's Thursday and it's not Wednesday. I was fully convinced it was Wednesday half an hour ago. But thank you for having me. Sorry for the mix up, but this has been lovely. I'm glad I got to talk to you both.
Yes, thank you.